Okay. So, Ask and It Is Given, one of my absolute favorite books by Esther and Jerry Hicks, really lays a firm foundation of the law of attraction if you really take the time to study it. The first part of the book deals with the basis of law of attraction, and the second part of the book introduces us to processes that we can use in order to improve our lives based on the law of attraction. So today we are diving into a discussion about Chapter 3, You Do Create Your Own Reality. Chapter 3, You Do Create Your Own Reality. And the whole premise in this chapter is that we create everything that happens to us. And more than that, Abraham is laying the basis for us, for our understanding that the basis of our life on planet Earth is freedom. And if something or someone thwarts our freedom, then we need to find ways not to let that affect us. And that's what it's all about. When we say things like, oh, we should be unconditional. You are unconditional when you are completely free. Conditions hold us down. Conditions are the thing that take our freedom away. And if we don't have freedom, we can't really experience joy. Think about it. If you feel any other emotion, any negative emotion, you are in some way, shape, or form feeling the loss of your freedom. So what does that look like? Let's take an example. Let's say that you're angry about a situation or a person. Somebody said something that has you in a knot. You are really angry. Now, what has happened vibrationally is that you are no longer free because this anger now has you in its vice. And your actions and reactions and your thoughts and your feelings are all controlled by anger. Unconditional means you've said something to me that I don't like, it's hurt me, but I'm not going to pay attention to it. I'm going to let that hurt go because I don't want my actions and my thoughts and my feelings to be guided by a feeling of anger. I want everything that I do to be guided by a feeling of freedom. Because when I feel freedom, that is when I go up the emotional scale. And I know that it's a little bit, we are getting ahead by bringing the emotional scale into the discussion at this point because Abraham has not yet introduced it. However, it's important, I feel, to understand that negative emotions take our freedom away. And the reason they take our freedom away is because our responses now are geared to this negative emotion, and we need to let it go so that we can go up the emotional scale, because as we will understand later on in this book, all good things happen. All the things that we want, all the manifestations that we want to see can only happen for us when we are higher up on the emotional scale. So, the one thing that caught my eye or my attention in this chapter as I was reading it is these words, and I'm going to read these to you and then we'll have a discussion on them. And by the way, that means that you're free to post questions, and I will address them right at the end when I have the time to go over what questions have been posted. All right, so is it really all right for us to choose the reality that we create? And this caught my attention because you see, in a lot of religions, and especially the way that I was brought up, we were brought up to believe that we don't choose our own reality, that things happen to us because it is the will of God. And so the concept that No, I can create my own reality, that I am powerful enough and I can have an impact on what happens to me, feels really strange when you spend a whole lifetime thinking that things happen to you because there's an entity in the sky who wills it, and then therefore it is. So the next thing that Abraham says is that this was the question that Jerry and Esther asked in the beginning. Is it really all right for us to choose the reality that we create? And furthermore, if it is appropriate for us to do so, then how do we go about doing it? And how do we go about doing it is what this entire book is about. But it's important to understand that there's nothing wrong with wanting things. In fact, when we stop wanting things, life is no longer interesting enough for us to hang around. Because we want, because we give birth to desire, that is the reason why we continue to live. So then the next line here is, the basis of your life is absolute freedom. And we've already discussed why that is so important. Freedom really is the basis of joy. If you take freedom away, no matter how much money you have, you're not really happy. If you take freedom away, it doesn't matter what you have, all the physical toys that you have. It doesn't matter who is in your life and who is not in your life. If you don't have freedom, then you cannot truly be happy. Just imagine you living in a castle, but you can never go outside the four walls of the castle. Are you really going to be happy with that kind of existence? Or is it going to get boring after a while? It's not interesting, you see, if you don't have your freedom. If someone or something puts you in a box and puts a label on it and says that forevermore, this is what you're going to be, have and do, then they take our freedom away. And when they take our freedom away, life is no longer fun. All right. So what happens is, when a child is born, that child intuitively understands the fact that they can have, be, or do anything that they want. But what happens is we get convinced that we must be wrong. And that happens when the grown-ups around us, the well-meaning teachers at school, the well-meaning leaders in our society and in our cultures, they are well-meaning. But what they do is they show us consequences. They show us consequences. They say, if you do this, then I'm telling you that this will happen. And if this happens, and it will, then the consequences will be so and so forth. So we believe this because they're telling us from a position of authority that this will be the chain of events. And because we believe in that, we forget that anything is possible. We forget what Abraham introduced to us in chapter 2 when they said, you can have, be, or do anything that you want. Anything is possible. That is our core belief, or should be our core belief. So what happens slowly is that we start conditioning ourselves based on what others are telling us. Don't run too fast, you will fall. Don't touch that thing, you will get hurt. Don't eat too much, you're going to be sick. Sugar is bad for you. All of these are beliefs, and they are conditions, because now we have believed these things to be true, and therefore we have established a set of conditions in our life. And every time we eat sugar now, or eat too much, we're going to think that we're doing something wrong. And soon as you think that you're doing something wrong, you go down the emotional scale. And if you go down the emotional scale, now that thing that you did is going to hurt you. See, if you had not believed that it was bad, if you had not believed that it was going to do any harm, then it would not do any harm, and it would therefore not have any impact on you at all. And we know of those people who eat a ton of sugar and nothing happens to them. They digest it. We know of those people who eat big meals and are scrawny. We know of those people who defy all those conditions. We know of people who run too fast and don't fall. We know of people who touch all sorts of things and do not get hurt. We know those examples. People defy these beliefs all the time, but a child doesn't know any better. When a parent, a mother or a father says, this is the way it's going to happen if you do this, and they introduce the concept of consequences, because those consequences are fear-based, they ignite in us that feeling of fear, the feeling of the fear that something will go wrong. And when we have that fear in our hearts, now we've gone down the emotional scale, and so nothing good can come from a place of fear. Fear will attract other things to be fearful of. That is what law of attraction is all about. Law of attraction says you will attract more of whatever it is that you're thinking and feeling about. So fear will bring us more things to be fearful about, and that's why a lot of children do end up being fearful. They're fearful of everything. They are fearful of adventure. They're fearful of creativity and new things, and they're even fearful of trying new foods because they're fearful of consequences. Because you see, a child that's born never thinks about consequences, because that is why they put everything in their mouths. That is why they touch everything, because they are open to experimenting. They are open to learning things based on their own experience, but we take that away from them. If we let a child touch something hot, the child would learn from that experience and be more vigilant, or would become more observant of the world and learning from it. But we take those things away from a child. So we make the child dependent on us rather than allowing the child to find his or her own balance. And that's how all conditions are introduced. That's how all beliefs are formed. Being aware of consequences, whereas you see, you think that a certain consequence will happen, but doesn't necessarily have to happen that way, because everybody's experience literally can be different based on what they have seen in the past, based on how they decide to think in the moment. Their experience can be different. And this is where I teach, or my interpretation of Abraham's teachings, I teach the paradigm of the 6 thinking choices. Because in any moment we have the choice. We can go past negative or past positive. We can go now negative or now positive. We can go future negative or future positive. And every time we think of negative consequences, we are going future negative. And that is not helpful, because if we keep going future negative, then the next thing that we are going to call towards us is more evidence of negativity. More evidence will come to prove us right and to prove us wrong. So if we believe that something was not going to happen, then the universe will show us more examples that that is true. And if we think that something bad is going to happen, then the universe will show us more examples that that is true, because that's just how the universe operates. Like attracts like. Fearful thoughts, thoughts of consequences attract more consequences, and thoughts of more consequences and fear. And that's how people start living their lives at a very low level on the emotional scale. And that's not what we want. That is absolutely the opposite of what we want. What we want is, we want good things to happen. And once we start understanding that every time somebody puts fear in our hearts, that we are giving up all good things, only then can we start becoming powerful, positive creators of our own reality. And in fact, Abraham goes on then and they say that you have not given up this freedom easily, however, and in fact you can never truly release it, for it exists as the most basic tenet of your being, which means that that desire for freedom is still inside us. No matter how programmed we become, we still have that desire. Each and every one of us desires freedom. That is what we want for ourselves. And everything that we want because we want to be free, because we want to feel joy. Okay, so moving along, the words in highlights are, no one else can create in your experience. So even though there are these well-meaning people who keep telling us of the consequences, which means that they're helping us to create negative visualizations about our own future, and they themselves are also doing the same. They are creating negative visualizations, but we don't have to follow them. We could leave them alone and let them enjoy those negative visualizations while we decide that we are not buying in. We can decide that we don't believe in that visualization process, and we can visualize something completely different. So let me give you a simple little example. A child might be running on the snow, and the parent might visualize, oh, stop running, you're going to fall, you're going to slip and fall and you'll hurt yourself. What is the parent doing? The parent now is visualizing a negative outcome. The child, on the other hand, is visualizing fun. The child is saying, ooh, this is so much fun. The child is happy, and they are visualizing a happy experience. So if we just left the child alone, they would figure it out. Children have the capacity to figure out their limits. They can figure out how fast is too fast. And if we just leave them alone, then they can arrive at those decisions and they will not fall. That does not have to happen. So I remember way back, and I'm going to give you this example just because it's coming up in my memory just now, is that when my son was younger, and I think he was maybe 5, 6, in that age range, he stood at the top of the stairs and he said, Mom, I want to jump from here right to the bottom. I said, okay, I'm going to stand here and clap for you. And then he looked down and he said, I don't think I can do it from here. I think I should come down a little. I said, okay. So he came down a couple of steps, and then he said, he looked down and he said, should I jump from here? And I said, I don't know. Do you think you can jump from there? And he looked down and he said, no, I think I should come down a little more. So he came down another couple of steps. I don't remember how many times he did that, but he always asked me and I never answered. In fact, I told him, ask yourself, just close your eyes and ask yourself if you can jump from there. So he kept coming down the stairs until he reached a point where he was absolutely sure that he could jump. And he did, and he was fine. And he did similar other things. So one day he said, Mom, can I climb on the outside of the staircase? And I said, sure. Because I know that as a child, I wanted to do the same thing. And I did do the same thing, but I was told, no, don't do it. You'll hurt yourself. So I stopped. But when my son asked me that same question, I said, sure, go ahead. And he did. And I watched him, and I was queasy, but I did not influence his decision making. And when he thought that he had enough fun out of that, He just went over the banister to the other side and he was fine. I have had instances where friends have come over and they've seen him do these things and they're scared. They try to stop him and he tells them, my mom doesn't stop me. And he just keeps doing whatever he's doing because he's developed a faith in his own inner knowing of where his limits are. And that's the thing. You see, but we don't have to believe that it's gone now and it's too late for us. No, we can regain that knowing. We can become that child again. We can reprogram ourselves and get our freedom back. We can start feeling our guidance. We can start experimenting and having more fun in our lives. I know that I can do it, and I have been doing it in my own way. And I know that you can do it too. And I know that you'll have a lot of fun doing it. So go for it. Try something new to eat. Don't be afraid. Just try it. It's not going to bite. Honestly, it's not. And tell yourself, if so many other people enjoy this food, there must be something in it. So why don't I just give it a try? So try it. Try everything. It's good. All right. So, and then Abraham goes on to say, this book is about your realignment with source energy. It is about your reawakening to the clarity, goodness, and power that is really who you are. And that alignment, learning to be realigned, learning to live life at the higher levels of the emotional scale, that is what this book is all about. Okay, so then Abraham goes on to say, planet Earth serves as a platform in which you are able to focus your perspective for the purpose of specific creation, which is different from the broader creation of Source. So Source has this broad overview, this broad view of things. Source doesn't focus on the tiny little things that we focus on. You know how if you were redecorating a room, you would go into the specifics of what color schemes you want, the specifics of the designs on the rug and the curtains and the bed cover and all the furniture and the decor. Source doesn't go into specifics like that. We do. And so that is why we are on the leading edge, because Source is over here with that general perception, and then we are on the leading edge, redefining that. How exciting is that? I'm getting excited as I talk about this. Okay, so then I'm going to move on, and I absolutely love the words in the last chapter. The words in the last chapter are, well-being is the basis of this universe. Well-being is the basis of all that is. It flows to you and through you. You have only to allow it, like the air you breathe. You have only to open, relax, and draw it into your being. And that's it. That's all there is to it. It is easy to allow if you just start trusting. Start trusting and start giving up the fear of consequences, because it's that fear of consequences that keeps us from doing things and completely enjoying our life. So then Abraham goes on to say, this book is about consciously allowing your natural connection to the stream of well-being. See, that's the thing. There's a difference. We are always connected unconsciously. But when we connect consciously, that is a whole different ball game. It's a whole different way of living life. It's a whole different experience. Everything tastes different. Colors are brighter. Things are more fun. You love what you see. You find things that are fantastic all the time. And you start seeing the synchronicities that the universe creates in order to give you what you desire. And that is totally amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Because when we put ourselves in that realm, when we start accepting that, then the kind of things that happen are just amazing. And you think about all the coincidences. We think that they're coincidences, but they're not. They are carefully orchestrated events that lead to the end result that we want. For example, I'll give you another example from my own life. Is I was going to attend my daughter's graduation ceremony. She was already there, and I was coming from Oshawa into Toronto to attend her graduation ceremony. When I got there, of course, it was really, really crowded. And so I had a ticket. I presented my ticket, and I was ushered up a staircase into one of the galleries. And as I was going up with the usher, someone came from behind me. A woman came from behind me, and she said, "Oh, do any of you want to come with me? I'll show you a less crowded place." And so I turned around and I said, "Yes, me." And I just went. I didn't think about it. I didn't spend too much time analyzing it. I just went with her. And so it was me and one other person. We followed this other usher, and she took us around, almost as if she was going around the building. And she took us up into this gallery, and I found a seat right in the center of the gallery, right at the first seat from the edge of the balcony. And when the procession came in and my daughter sat at her place, she was bang opposite where I was sitting, right? Directly opposite. And I'm thinking, can you imagine all the synchronicities that had to happen in order to get me there? Because I had said to myself, I want to take really good pictures. Wouldn't it be fantastic if I could take, I had an awesome place to sit from where I could capture everything, and I got exactly what I wanted. But there were so many synchronicities that had to happen to get me there. I had to take the right train from Oshawa. I had to get there at a certain time. And this usher had to show up, and there had to be room in that gallery where she took me. So all of these things had to happen. And I tell you, when you start observing how Source brings things together, it is so much fun. It is. And it's happening all the time, but we're not noticing it all the time. And life changes and becomes a lot more fun when you start noticing all these little things that happen. Okay, so that's what Abraham says then in as we get to the end of the chapter. Can you understand how much well-being is flowing to you? Do you understand how much orchestration of circumstances and events on your behalf is available to you? Do you understand how adored you are? Do you understand how the creation of this planet, the creation of this universe fits together for the perfection of your experience? And think about it. There's so many things out there in nature for us to appreciate, for us to feast our eyes on. Look at how many people love going to cottages and seaside resorts and enjoy being in nature, right? All of that nature is for us to feast our eyes on, for us to enjoy. And how wonderful is that? Do you understand how beloved you are, how blessed you are, how adored you are, and what an integral part of this creative process you are? And when you start understanding that you are powerful and you have a powerful role to play, that is when you start developing trust and faith. So Abraham ends this chapter by saying, your motion forward is inevitable. It must be. You cannot help but move forward, but you are not here on a quest to move forward. You are here to experience outrageous joy. That is why you are here. And I think that those are perfect words to end with, because a lot of times people think that they're here to learn a lesson, that they're here to accomplish some task that was left undone from a previous life, that they were somehow not good enough in a past lifestyle, or they did something wrong in a previous life, and now they are learning a lesson to get over that, or they're it's compensation somehow, or it's punishment. And a lot of people say that life is a struggle, but it's not supposed to be, because a veil drops on all your past lives when you rebirth in a new body, in a new existence on planet Earth, and none of what has happened before applies anymore. There is no lesson to be learned except unconditionality, faith and trust, and the experience of joy and the giving birth of desires. And I think it's really, really important for us to start understanding that, so that we can start living our best lives, unlimited lives. All right, folks. Yes, Yolanda, you're right. It is the fear of consequences, right? Every time you fear consequences, you are doing a negative visualization. Okay, so I'm just going to check if there are any questions. All right, so hang on one second. I don't see any questions just now. If you have questions that come up for you at a later point in time, feel free to post them under the replay, and I will make sure to go back and check and respond to those. Thank you all, whoever joined me today. Thank you very much for joining me. This is going to be an amazing co-creative journey, and I'm going to be back here with chapter 4 of Ask and It Is Given tomorrow. And over the course of the next month or so, we are going to cover all 44 chapters in this book, one day at a time. And I'm looking forward to whoever co-creates with me. Bye for now. All right. See you all tomorrow.